My name's Glenn Lurie. I run a group we call Enterprise Partnerships. Easiest way to think about what we do, I've got a couple of core businesses, and then obviously I've got all the innovation, all the new businesses. You saw the great ad, actually Kevin Peterson's here. He runs Digital Life, which is our connected home business, so home automation security. About 5 years ago, as Jerry and I were just talking, we started a group called the Emerging Device Organization, which takes smartphones out, everything else you possibly could enable. And I think I've been here screaming about everything's going to be connected for a number of years, and it's just terrific to see some of the things that are happening. But AT&T is proud to be the leader in these spaces, and we're driving innovation all the time, and that's one of the main goals we have is we got to get into new businesses. As we look at our $130 billion revenue stream, we're going to always look at innovating, and I'm fortunate to run the group that's doing most of that.
Why don't you start out by telling us a bit about how your group, Merging Enterprises and Partnership, is organized?
Yeah, so our group is, the simplest way to put it is they're separate companies. I think many of you in the room maybe know AT&T well, know how we do business. One of the things that we've done a little differently when we started launching new businesses is we actually launched them outside the four walls of AT&T. So they are individual startups. So I'll pick on Kevin because he's here. Kevin started Digital Life. He's in a different building. He does it differently. He runs it as a startup so that we can incubate these ideas, grow them, build them, and then down the road as we get them, decide what next steps are with those businesses. We've got right now AO Wireless, I think, which is a non-contracted wireless carrier we launched last year. We launched Digital Life. We have the EDO business, et cetera, that are all run as independent businesses, and I've got terrific leaders that run each of the businesses.
So what do you see as the groups that are most active in the M2M space from your perspective?
Who's most active? You know, it's interesting when even if you go back, and how many in here have been at CES? I mean, he's 26, we won't go there, but like last 5 years, have you been here? Many of you? So if you think back, I mean, I was just actually chatting at a meeting yesterday, almost 6 years ago, when we first put the EDO group together, we started to ask people to meet with us about, at the time we called it M2M, we call it connected devices, now we have the Internet of Things, we got to come up with one name, by the way. But bottom line, yeah, I know, but people didn't even want to meet with us. We'd say, we want to wireless enable your device, and they go, why? I mean, if you think back 6 years ago, when the iPhone launched mid-07, right? So that kind of changed a lot of perspectives. Obviously, the App Store didn't launch till mid-08, and you can kind of look. So what's really we're seeing is now all of a sudden everybody's active, right? You got 9 major automakers here at CES out of the 15 total. That's never happened, right? You've got a few that have been here over the years. You just got everybody understanding that, you know, CES has really become the wireless CES because to make consumer electronic devices better, they have to be connected. And if they're not connected, they're dumb devices. If they are connected, they're smart. So we're kind of seeing everybody get more and more active in the space.
Right. And what do you see as the most successful M2M and emerging products so far?
You know, I'd probably say the most successful is tablets. You know, again, people have short memories. Think back. You know, the tablet world 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there wasn't a tablet world. In fact, many of the analysts and reporters and others said there never would be a tablet world. I was fortunate enough to be at the launch of the iPad, sitting in the front row when Steve Jobs got up and talked about it, and he got destroyed the next day by all the analysts and media and said, this is just, it's not going to work.
Shows you what they know.
Yeah, actually it showed you what he did know, which was, the fact is that he really created it by saying, look, I'm going to give a 10-inch piece of glass, put it in the same ecosystem with all my other content, and it took off. But reality is he's even gone faster and done better than we maybe expected ourselves. Because now, reality is the tablet is the fastest growing device we've ever seen in the wireless business ever. And everybody likes to talk about, well, not enough of them are connected and la, la, la. Well, it went from 0 to $1 billion business in basically a couple of years. And so that's probably the most successful. I think we're going to see a lot more coming. Obviously, you can talk about M2M telemetry. You can talk about all the different verticals, such as gaming and obviously the home, et cetera. But reality is we're still just scratching the surface of what this space is going to be.
And I think that's a good segue to talk about the connected car. You knew I was going to get around to that at some point.
It's all good, yeah.
And I love talking about that. And I think, from my perspective, that's why I often tell people think of connected car, they think of, you know, Pandora, Facebook, whatever, you know, and these infotainment features in the dash. But what I often tell people is we can't even really imagine what we're going to see, like what the internet was 20 years ago, as far as the features, and also a lot of features people don't think of, like connected vehicles, vehicle communication, autonomous vehicles. But I was wondering, since you guys are launching the LTE and GM vehicles, and I'm sure in a lot more vehicles to come, do you expect to see most new cars sold with LTE communication?
Yeah, well, we expect, and if you look at, there's lots of analysts out there throwing out numbers. If you look over the next few years, we expect on the new car front, so I'll give you an idea, about 16 million new cars a year in the U.S. There's actually 63 million worldwide. We expect about 50+% over the next few years to be connected, and we can talk about LTE, we can talk about HSPA plus, et cetera. When you get to 2020 and into that range, we expect it to be 90%. And, you know, a big part of driving this, just right up front, a big driver has got to be safety and driver distraction and a lot of the issues happening. I was just reading an article yesterday that now there are 40+ states you can't text and drive, which, by the way, you shouldn't be doing that anyway. And then there's 12 states that have actually said if your smartphone's in your hand at all doing anything, you're getting pulled over. That's just going to go up because of the distracted driving concerns. So we believe that connectivity and technology should make the car safer. So that's first and foremost. Yeah, there's all kinds of other cool stuff like 4G hotspots and infotainment and on car-to-car communications and car infrastructure, and we can probably be here all day talking about it. But without question, connectivity will drive and be the first thing that needs to be there to make that work correctly.
Right, and my background, I've written for lots of enthusiast publications, you know, Road and Track, and spent several years at Edmunds.com, and I was surrounded by hardcore car guys. And, you know, I consider myself a car guy, but compared to them, you know, I'm the technology guy, and often it comes up saying, you know, why do we need this in the vehicle? Why, you know, why can't people just drive? And what I often tell people is that, you know, one, a lot of the driving is not like a car commercial on a mountain road. It's usually stuck in traffic, and it's lost time. People want to stay productive, and we're saying that, you know, there are a lot of safety benefits that can also come. But here's the thing. When I was at Edmunds.com, even the hardcore car guys would agree that technology has really become the differentiator.
Absolutely.
When people are shopping cars, I mean, there's a lot of good cars out there these days. And when they're shopping, usually it'll come down to what technology features that are available. That becomes a differentiator. That's why you see all the car companies here, you know. But what often comes up too is, okay, I understand the need for the connectivity, the features it can bring, but how are we going to pay for it? You know, what is it going to be part of a shared data plan? Is it going to be part of the purchase of the car? I think that's an issue that comes up over and over. You know, what kind of business models are we going to see to pay for connectivity?
You know, I think it's all the above. So first of all, you said something that's really important. Car companies are competing with each other. So I get asked, I mean, after we made our announcements about our Drive platform and Drive Studio on Monday, I've spent a lot of time with reporters the last 2 days, and they want to ask these general questions. Well, what's the business model? It's going to be all the above, because each one of the OEMs has a different opinion about how they want to compete. So I'll give you an example. One of our good partners, BMW, came out this year and said safety and security aspect of the car is going to be free for 10 years. And we all know it's not free. We all know, obviously, we're paying for that. But they're saying that's just going to be a part of the vehicle. That's one of the biggest jumps we've seen. But I think what you're going to see in the car is multiple different models. You're going to see some OEMs. Another one of my partners is GM. OnStar has been probably, and I'd argue, the most successful. They've been around 17 years. They've done a great job. Well, that's a front seat option now. Whether they decide to give it away, whether they decide to charge for that from a standpoint. From my business model, I'm going to sell them bits and bytes, and they're going to go and have a wholesale model with me and go sell that to you all in that front seat. But also, as you heard at the Chevy announcement on Sunday night, they're planning on putting a 4G hotspot, apps, infotainment, and we're actually going to have a retail model in that back seat where if you're an AT&T customer, you could go on mobile share, or if you're not an AT&T customer, by the way, you should be, different discussion, yet you would obviously be able to buy an individual plan. But the goal here is to make the car flexible. Our goal is to support the OEMs. Our goal is to let them do what they want to do to go compete. So our platform has a bifurcated billing option and an opportunity in the car. So one SIM, one pipe, and you can break that pipe up into multiple models and multiple types of business models because that's what they asked us to go do. And so that's one of the reasons, there's others, that we're winning a lot of this business. But I think you're going to see the car just become simply another device in your life. right? All of us get in it every day. Some of us drive longer than others, depends what city you live in. But why should you lose the ability to do the things you want to do in that car if you have technology that would allow you to do it? Whether that's texting, whether that's listening to that podcast, whether that is understanding where the traffic is, real-time traffic. It's all those things we want with connectivity. They're all deliverable, and they all can be done, but they need to be done in a safe fashion.
Right, and as you mentioned, I mean, where people are kind of captive audiences, they're wasted time in the car. I know recently I was on a drive, and I really got tired of listening to satellite radio after a while. I could only make so many phone calls. So I think we're going to see so many rich applications that can improve people's drive, make it more efficient, make it safer. But as I said, I think what's really exciting, and as I talk to automakers and technology people in the space, is we don't know what's next, and that's actually kind of scary for automakers who are used to having very definable, validated solutions. So I was wondering, AT&T made the announcement the other day where they're going to have features such as Event Seeker and help me out here if you can remember some of them. Certain price line, so you can get a hotel reservation.
You bet.
All these different features. What do you see next? What kind of applications do you see coming down the road?
I want to hit the point you just hit. So if I ask everybody in here, if I would have asked all of you in 2005, what do you want for your smartphone? What's next for smartphone? You all, first of all, probably didn't have a smartphone. Probably had a BlackBerry, right? And there was no open browser. And so this is one of those situations where when you ask people, what do you want from your future car? They don't know what they don't know. We didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't know there was going to be an app store. We didn't know what was going to happen, right? We didn't know open browsers. We didn't know people would carry 6-inch screens, which I don't know how you guys do that. But my point is we didn't know. And I think when you put LT in a car, you get apps developers involved, you get OEMs involved, you get the whole ecosystem excited. We don't know what next is. We just know it's going to be exciting, and we know that the companies are competing and driving innovation faster and faster and faster. My view of kind of what we're seeing in the mirror here is there's just a lot of excitement at every OEM as to how they differentiate their car. And that means, so for example, did anybody see or anybody of you guys at the Chevy event, they announced the new Stingray, and they announced, one of the things that Chevy built into the new Corvette Stingray is, if you guys know like a GoCam, right? They put a camera with HD quality in the car built in with an app. So as you're driving, if you want to see how you drove, if you go on a track, you want to take HD film of so you basically have a GoCam on your car at all times. And inside that car, and you think about that's kind of crazy in a Corvette. Why would you want that? Well, of course, most people buy Corvettes are a little nuts anyway and want to go drive fast and see what they're doing.
Too,
and they show off too. But the thing is, that's the kind of stuff that they're trying to do differentiate. Connectivity is what's going to be the key point of that differentiation. So whether it's apps, whether it's content, whether it's the ability in a Suburban to get what you want for your child in that back seat, and again, they're talking about building apps for specific models. And they're asking, we had our big app developer conference on Monday, and we had 3,000 developers there. We did a hackathon around wearables and everything else, and the connected car resonated because we were talking about the fact we need them to start to think about it. And as I talked to a few of the bigger ones, this is exactly what they're thinking about. That's my next thing, and those developers will drive those next generation things.
Yeah, and I have to say I did get a chance to drive and test the performance data recorder in the Corvette Stingray.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. In fact, your colleague Chris Penrose, we couldn't get him out of the car. He kept wanting.
Yeah, he was pretty excited about it. Yeah,
and it is. And the thing is, as you mentioned, people that buy these cars or any kind of car like that, you can record this, download it. I mean, I posted it to YouTube pretty quickly, to let people know what I was doing. One
thing I would throw out that we haven't hit, part of the safety aspect of the car is going to be voice and voice activation. And for those of you who may have voice in your car today, it's I'll just say it's pretty average, right? You have to know commands, you have to hit a button. The future of that is a thing called contextual or natural voice. And there's a lot of folks driving this really, really hard. We've got a few partners that have got massive amounts of IP in this. Really, the future of the car, you won't touch a button. Be 2 hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, and you'll be able to do anything you want in the car, all with voice. Your car will learn you, right? This technology starts to understand you and learn you. To me, that is probably one of the biggest changes we will see in the car going forward, because it's going to allow you to answer that text, allow you to send that voice, allow you to do whatever you want, all with your voice, all speaking naturally, not like a robot. right? And that's where we really have to get.
Yeah, and I can say as someone who tests probably about 50 cars a year or more, you're right, but it is getting better. I mean, it can be frustrating, but there's certain vehicles that you can get in and it works. And what we're seeing now, Nuance is one of the biggest voice engine suppliers. They are starting to use a cloud-based solution. So you have certain things that are for the vehicle, like turn on the AC or whatever, but it's getting much more robust. And obviously you need connectivity.
And you have to, and in that situation, you have to have LTE, so you have the lower latency. So you don't have so you don't have that pause. Nuance, voice box. There's a whole bunch of folks that are trying to do this, and what we want there again is more competition, so that it goes faster and technology goes faster, but ultimately we have to get there.
Right, and as you mentioned, that you have to have the connectivity to do that. I was at a Nuance event, and they were showing some of this more contextual type applications, and like I said, you just ask for something like, I want a cup of coffee or something like that. I wanted to touch a little bit more on your hackathon, your developer conference, because to me that's one of the most exciting things that are happening in automotive, and almost also one of the most kind of revolutionary, because I know that in talking with automakers, for them to open up their dashboards to third-party developers, that's huge. I mean, for companies that are used to controlling things, and for good reason. But we're starting to see that, like Chevy, I know, announced last year their app developer program, and I know there's some really cool features, and I think that's what it's going to take is. Car companies obviously have amazing resources, very smart people, but like you said, some of these hackers and coders that come up with features that we don't even know we want, are yet. So, did anything that came out of that the other day that you'd like to talk about?
I think so. I mean, look, I think the key is first of all, we got to get the developers engaged in this vertical. It's to develop an app for iOS or Android. Obviously millions and millions of opportunities. This is, first of all, this is a global opportunity, right? The automakers are global. They're not trying to just build for the US. They want to build one way. They want to build globally. Second of all, you've got to make it so that it's open enough that they actually feel like they can go develop it and make money. Because a lot of these apps players are small. And so we need to help them with that. That's what our developer conferences are about. It's about giving them the tools they need, the APIs they need, and we're going to do more and more around the car as well. The other key point for the automakers is they got to lock down the bus of the car, right? They're not going to let anybody get near the bus of the car. We had one of our partners say on a test track, without having that locked down, they could drive a car up next to a car, hack the car, take over every aspect of the car, brake, gas, everything, right? That'd be bad, right? It would be bad for all of us. So the goal here is you lock down the bus, and then up the stack, you open up pieces of that stack with APIs, SDKs to allow people to build apps for it. That's where we're headed. And the good thing is the automakers who 3 years ago, as you know, would have just said, absolutely never going to happen. They're now all on board. They all realize to compete, that's what they're going to have to do. And that's what's really driving the 9 automakers being here, and the things you're hearing Audi say and the things you're hearing Tesla say and do. That's what's driving it.
Yeah. I think we're out of time. Is that right, Jerry? Are we wrapping up here? Are we wrapping up? Okay, so a lot more we could talk about here. It's a very exciting time in automotive. Keep your eyes out, and we didn't even talk about autonomous cars and that all. There's just a lot going on, and I look forward to seeing what AT&T is going to be doing in this space. So, Glenn, thanks. I appreciate
being here. Appreciate the time. Thank you, everybody.